time undefeated. We're joined by Nebraska head coach Scott Frost, who guided UCF to that perfect season. Jesse Palmer up here with us as well. Scott, we heard the soundbite that you said that you felt like the selection committee didn't give your team enough credit. Why do you think it was a conscious effort?
You know, all through the year, watching the rankings, we got frustrated because we kept winning games and taking care of our business and wouldn't move up. You know, we played good teams, and I think our kids deserve to be ranked higher than they were.
When you look, you've coached in the American now. You have experience in the Pac-12 as an assistant coach. How does coaching in one of the conferences outside the Power Five compare to the American?
There's good teams. There's good teams everywhere. There's good players everywhere. And we face challenges every week. From the other side of it, you know, you're not playing the schedule week in and week out maybe that the Power Five teams are. But there's still good teams there that won a lot of games against the big boys.
Coach, how did you keep your players motivated when they were getting so frustrated, you know, week in and week out? You guys wouldn't climb high in the rankings like you deserved. You should have been. How did you keep the guys motivated?
We just blocked it all out. I didn't let the guys pay attention to it, didn't let them talk about it. We just were focused on the task at hand.
When you look at the structure of the system today and the opportunity for Group of 5 teams to potentially win a national championship. I remember in the BCS era, there'd be a Boise State or a TCU or a Utah at the end of the year unbeaten, winning a BCS bowl game, still on the outside looking in. In the current format, the way it is, with 4 teams in the playoff, do you think this is a better structure to give the quote-unquote little guy, a Group of 5 team, an opportunity?
I think this year probably proved that there's no way you can get there if you're a Group of 5 team. Maybe if you have a couple big wins, but teams aren't going to schedule those kind of schedules. That's one reason I'd like to see it go 8. When you watch the NCAA basketball tournament, people's favorite part of that is watching a Cinderella beat a #1 seed or a #2 seed. You're never going to have that in this structure.
Would you be for automatic bids, you know, all conference champions? What if you didn't have a Group of 5 team that wasn't deserving a particular year? What would you envision that structure being to be the best solution?
Yeah, I think it'd be great if it was the 5 conference champions and the 3 best teams. It doesn't have to be a Group of 5 team, the next 3 best. And that would also give you a chance to maybe have a 3 or 4 loss conference champion sneak in and be another Cinderella. But I like sports where it's not subjective, where it's not people's opinion, where it's decided on the field.
Coach, from the outside looking in, as you go back to Nebraska to coach, we always think he's from Nebraska, he coached at Nebraska, so it makes sense. I mean, he played at Nebraska, it makes sense to go back to Nebraska. What was that like for you going through that decision?
Yeah, that's not true at all. I loved where I was. UCF's a great place. There were some other really good jobs open that I had interest in. There's been some things broken in Lincoln for a while that kept them from winning. And until those things changed, I didn't really have an interest in going back. All those things are in place now, and I think the table's set to see Nebraska make a resurrection.
What are some of those things, Scott?
You know, leadership on campus, leadership in the athletic department, unity of purpose, unity in the fan base. Look at a lot of programs, including these 2 playing in this game, that are great programs. They win, and then inevitably there's a dip after a while, and then you see them come back. You know, Alabama had a dip until they got the right people and Coach Saban in place, and now you see where they are. It happens to a lot of programs. It happened to Nebraska. I hope we're the ones to bring it back where it should be.
You talked about expanding the college football playoff, but I'm against players playing any more games than they have right now unless they figure out how to pay them. You know, I'm big on the players need to be paid. If you push that to the side, though, how do you come to grips with the fact that they're playing even more games? Because to me, they're almost playing an NFL schedule at this point. How do you come to grips with that? Because I just don't want them out there playing more games. You know, what happened to school? What happened to the classes? They're student athletes. So that's the problem I have with expanding the playoff.
I agree, and we put a lot on student athletes' plates. I actually think it's worse in other sports with baseball and basketball where they're traveling every week and midweek. I don't think one more game would make the difference. The other thing I really wish was standard does is the number of conference games you play. It's a big advantage to play 8 instead of 9. There was a couple times at Oregon where we were playing USC and Stanford in week 11, and Alabama was playing Georgia Southern and Western Carolina, and we lost those games. This year, Wisconsin had to play 2 extra conference games, 2 more conference games than Alabama did, and they lost 1. I'd like to see those things become standardized so that it's an even playing field.
Exactly.
And to be fair, there's only one SEC coach who has been consistently in favor of playing 9 games.
Nick Saban.
It's Nick Saban.
Yep.
And he has said that it'd be better for the sport to play against just Power 5 opponents, too, instead of some of those games that you mentioned. Scott, wish you all the luck in the world at Nebraska, my friend. You did a great job at UCF. Perfect season for UCF, and now all you got to do is make Nebraska perfect in 2 years, and you'll have it. Bar's been set. You said it.
Wait and see. Go Big Red.
All right, that's what I like. Now, do you know why everybody wanted to hire him? I think you do. Now, let's go inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium right now. Adnan Virk talking more playoff now.
All right, Reese, thank you very much. Yeah, great to see Scott Frost here. He and Booger McFarland had a nice moment together as well. Tim Tebow's here. And how about the athleticism of David Pollock sprinting from outside to inside? What was it, 4 minutes, 30 seconds to get in here?
We made it. We made
First
it.
round pick, baby.
I see you.
First round pick.
Pollock's getting it done. All right, Tim, you get the floor first. Playoff expansion, it's been a heavy topic of conversation. It feels like every year 4 teams should be expanded to 8 teams. You get the first.
No.
Did you see that disdain?
There's huge disdain. And we talk about college football. It's special because every week matters.
Yes.
Every week has to matter. It's the best part of college football. And I get Coach Frost's analogy about NCAA basketball. Guess what? No one watches the regular season. We don't want college football to turn into college basketball and have everybody wait till March Madness. Guess what? College football is special from the last week in August till right now. That's why it's awesome.
I can just
Every
hear
week
Reese
matters.
Davis in my ear when you say that, because I know what he says that. Well, the game against Clemson and Syracuse didn't matter.
No, it did,
That's
though.
that's exactly what Reese
I
says.
know
Reese says right away. Listen, I love what we have because we have a multi-game playoff. Think about it. Wisconsin versus Ohio State. If Wisconsin wins, they're in.
They're in.
If Ohio State plays really great and maybe beats them like they did several years ago, they might be in. If Clemson lost to Miami, they'd be out. I mean, now listen, Scott Frost and UCF throws a wrench in this for sure, and we have to consider that. Because, but I would also like to see those guys, if we're going to be non-Power 5 and Power 5, play more competitive big boys. They got to play more of those guys.
You know what's amazing? We had the BCS. They said, you know what? We're tired of the computers. We want humans. You put 13 people in the room, now all of a sudden we're coming up with something else. Everyone in the media is being selfish. Okay, Scott Frost, coaches, everybody's being selfish. What about these kids? Okay, we started with 11 years ago when I was playing. Then it's 12. Now it's 13, 14. How many games do we want the kids to play? At some point, we have to understand that it's not about the fans and how much more enjoyment we can give them. It's about these kids. The kids start finals. The kids have to go to school. And all of a sudden now, you know what? I want my school to get a shot. Let's add another game. Are you serious?
Are you telling me
Are you
that
serious?
these kids don't want to be here?
No, they want to be here, but
Yeah, they wanna be
why
here.
do we have to add another game, though? There doesn't need to be another game added. I'm fine with 4 teams, okay? It should be tough to get in here. It should be tough to win a national championship. This is not a participation trophy. This is the best team in America. That's what we're trying to decide here. Like adding more games, more teams? Come on, give me a break, guys.
Well, we'd have to take back a game. We could dial back a game or two. There's several games on everybody's schedule. Scott pointed to Nick Saban and them.
Yeah.
There's plenty of games early in the season where other people are playing garbage as well. They just save it before the Auburn game, it seems like every single year. So we can cut some of those back.
What's awesome about Wisconsin and UCF and all these teams that are fighting to get in the top 4 is you need to go tell your AD and your president to go play some big boys, and so you have a resume that matches up with the Alabamas that play FSU and all those other big games, and it's just going to make college football better.
Since we're on this UCF conversation, because it's been had over and over and over, here's the way I see UCF. They had about 3 weeks to get ready for a big game. They can play, they beat Auburn, and they can play with anybody if you give them 3 weeks every time. Here's the thing. Can they do it every 7 days?
Back to back
in the Big Ten, in the Pac-12, in the Big 12. Can they do it every 7 days? No, they can't, because to me, the physicality and the lack of depth will take place. You give them 30 days, they can play with Alabama or Georgia. But if you give them 7 back-to-back, they can't do that.
If it had been an 8-team playoff this year, it would have been Ohio State, Wisconsin, Auburn, USC. Bama, USC. How much fun would that have been?
Yeah.